Welcome to another exciting and insightful episode of Gender Perspectives on Signature TV. And as always, we look at all gender-related issues in our society as it affects men and women. And as always, we have an interesting topic for you today. But first, we will go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about that. Don't forget, I am Uchenna Chimdi Olwoha. Stay with us.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking. Events occur and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Welcome back. You are watching Gender Perspectives on Signature TV. Well, our topic today is going to be bordering on traditional gender roles and stereotypes. And of course, we know that gender roles are social norms that are deemed appropriate or desirable for individuals based on their gender or sex. And gender roles are usually centered on conceptions of masculinity and femininity, and the specifics regarding these gendered expectations may vary among cultures, while other characteristics may be common throughout a range of cultures. And in addition, gender roles and perceived gender roles vary based on a person's race or ethnicity. So let's get more information about this from the background reports.
Traditional gender roles and stereotypes are deeply ingrained societal expectations that define how men and women should behave based on historical and cultural norms. These roles have been shaped by centuries of social, economic, religious, and political influences, often dictating career choices, family roles, and personal behavior. While some traditional gender roles are evolving, stereotypes still persist, affecting individuals and societies in profound ways. Traditional gender roles emerged from early human societies where survival depended on distinct labor divisions, where men typically hunted and protected the group and women gathered food, cared for children, and managed domestic responsibilities. Different religious and cultural traditions such as Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and others have shaped gender expectations. Many of these traditions continue to influence gender norms today, though interpretations have evolved over time. Men have historically been expected to be providers, protectors, decision makers, and emotionally resilient. Women, on the other hand, have traditionally been seen as caretakers, nurturers, submissive partners, modest and reserved. These stereotypes have influenced education, employment, and social expectations for generations. These gender roles have highly impacted individuals in various ways. Men may struggle with emotional suppression, leading to higher rates of depression and suicide. Women may experience anxiety due to societal pressure to meet unrealistic beauty or caregiving standards. Women often face barriers in male-dominated industries, while men in caregiving roles face stigma. People who do not conform to traditional gender roles may experience social rejection or discrimination. Rigid gender roles contribute to gender-based violence, harassment, and unequal treatment in legal systems. In recent decades, social movements, legal reforms, and globalization have challenged traditional roles. Women have gained more access to education and employment. Men are increasingly involved in parenting and household duties. Traditional gender roles and stereotypes have deep historical roots and continue to shape societies worldwide. While some norms are evolving, stereotypes still create barriers for individuals and reinforce inequality. Addressing these issues requires education, policy changes, and cultural shifts to create more equitable opportunities for all genders.
Traditional gender roles and stereotypes refer to the expectations society places on individuals based on their perceived gender. And these roles are often deeply ingrained in culture, history, and social structures. Well, men are typically expected to be providers, protectors, and decision makers. They are often associated with strength, assertiveness, and leadership, while women are traditionally seen as caregivers, nurturers, and homemakers. They are expected to be gentle, emotional, and supportive. Well, to throw more light on this discussion, we have an interview with Lady Jane Ndukwe. She is a mentor, an educator, and an advocate of respect and true humanity and kindness worldwide ambassador. So we're going to take a listen to this interview and hear what she has to say about traditional gender roles and stereotypes. Enjoy. Welcome, Lady Jane. Thank you so much for joining us on our program today.
Thank you.
You look so lovely. Thank you. It's always a pleasure seeing you, really.
Thank you.
So, well, today we are looking at traditional gender roles and stereotypes in our society. And I know you have a lot to say about that, so let's just get right into the gist of the day. So first of all, what do you understand by traditional gender roles? Like, what does it mean to you? Gender roles and stereotypes.
Okay, so gender roles, to me, traditional gender roles means that there are roles that are specific to a gender,
Okay.
traditionally.
Mm-hmm.
So traditionally, we're looking at culture, religion, what society says the man ought to do and what the woman ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then stereotypes are the ones that, when you have a bias, against maybe a gender or how something is done or perceived. So then you have this stereotype that, for instance, that says girls are maybe inferior, to men. That's a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
That's a belief that isn't right.
Yes.
So,
And can you walk us through the various types of gender roles and stereotypes that society has for men and women, and how this has shaped expectations, what society expects from both genders?
Well, society expects that the woman belongs to the home front, and so she is groomed from birth, to cook, clean, man the home.
Yes, take care of the children,
and
dishes
everything, So then you would find that in the traditional setting, the male child is just not allowed, well, no, I won't use the word allowed, but is not supposed to be in the kitchen, is not supposed to cook and clean. It's the woman's, it's for the woman, it's for the girl child. So that's a gender role and stereotype, a traditional one. So, and then another one is that the woman does not inherit,
properties.
Yes. And then going back on the first one that I mentioned, the girl child is already groomed for marriage.
Yes.
So if she doesn't get married early enough,
at a certain
age, it's as if what has gone wrong with her, So people begin to talk and, pass some very unwholesome comments, to the family. And another one is education. Back in the days, it was like, you don't really need to educate the girl child. Why do you bother? She's going to be somebody's wife.
And it still happens these days.
So those are the things, when you talk about, that's how tradition perceives each gender, the girl and the boy, in
you've spoken
society.
You've spoken, much on the female,
Mhm.
there are roles and
Mm,
stereotypes.
mm.
So what about
And what they
the boy?
so the society expects that the boy child grows up into a man that provides.
Mhm.
He takes up headship of the home, so he's already being groomed, in that way, to head, to lead, and he is the ultimate provider and the protector,
Mhm.
and it's like his word is law.
Yes.
Final. It's final. So and then if he's unable to do that, it becomes a problem.
Yes.
Uh,
His
So,
masculinity in
is
question.
exactly is questioned.
Yes.
So these are the traditional roles, that we attribute to gender.
Yes. Um, there is one that's quite striking, particularly when it comes to boys.
Okay.
When they say they shouldn't show emotion.
I forgot that one.
So,
Yes.
yes,
So
yes.
that they shouldn't show. A boy doesn't cry.
Cry, yes.
Well, so that has actually led to too many mental health issues among our boy children, because they face a lot of trauma, stress, but in quotes, boys don't cry.
So
they bottle it up,
yes.
and then you now begin to hear. In fact, there's a higher from research, a higher suicide rate in boys than
Really?
girls. I read it somewhere. I can't quite remember where I saw that. So and it could stem from this stereotype. This belief that says boys shouldn't cry. But we now know better that
Yes,
that
yeah.
really isn't so. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's actually true, and the opposite of that is that women are also over
Weak
and over emotional.
Yes.
and
So when a woman freaks out, she's being
yes,
emotional.
being yeah.
So if she complains, don't mind her, that's a
Yeah.
woman thing, she's being
Exactly,
emotional.
and
she's-
even when some men
Mm.
show emotions, say, why are
Mm.
you acting
Acting
like
like
a
a
woman? That's the society we find ourselves in, unfortunately. Do you have any personal or observed experience where these roles and stereotypes have influenced, life choices or people in one way or another?
Yeah. For instance, in the choice of courses, that our children study, at the university. I mean, then it used to be that only men could do engineering courses, and there were certain courses that were predominantly male.
Yes.
I think it was yesterday on television that I heard a woman. She was saying she studied engineering, and then she found herself in a male-dominated field. And I think either she was the only woman or something like that. So yes, it does affect our choices. And then it also affects our perception. On marriage, for instance. What is acceptable. So for the fact that we feel that the man's word is law. So the wife, is not expected to speak. She just toes the husband's whatever thing that he has set up, that must be done, must be observed in the house. I mean, just before I came in, I was listening to the radio when somebody was mentioning or referring back to our past president, when he referred to his wife as belonging to the other room,
yes.
When she was trying to advise, or make a suggestion or something to him, So you find a lot of cases like that, where the woman is not really expected to speak. So whatever the husband says and does, whether they're right or wrong, everybody just toes that line.
And do you think that the idea the younger generation have concerning gender roles and stereotypes, do you think it is what it is supposed to be? Do you have any, what is your thoughts or your thought process as to the idea of gender roles and stereotypes and how the younger generation perceive it to be these days?
Well, as one who mentors young people, I have heard, like some young ladies, some young girls speak about, in fact, they don't even see gender roles, because it's as though what the man can do, the woman can do, So if he wants to be a leader, I want to be a leader. If he's chasing his career, I want to chase my career. So they see that. So some don't also see, in quotes, the man is head in the home. I've heard some younger girls speak about, well, what's in a marriage? They don't even want to get married. They don't want all this. I'm not cut out for this. And I've also heard on what the younger generation, see. So, for instance, I've heard some say something like, we're working. Don't expect me to cook. There was a young lady, she was sharing with me. A guy invited her out and was waiting for her to come and cook. And then she said, no, what happened to ordering something? That's not what I'm coming to do. So there's a shift, there's a change in the way the younger generation, perceive this issue of gender role.
So you personally, what do you think about this shift? And do you think the younger people are misunderstanding it or are misrepresenting it or being too extreme with their thought process and the way they are seeing this idea of...
I want to look at it in this dimension. If what we project as gender roles, and how it should be practiced was maybe better understood, if we understood the essence of gender roles, because I believe in gender roles.
Okay.
Let's start from that. I believe in gender roles, and I believe in the beauty of balance and complementarity. Okay? So now, if we had those thoughts of complementarity and balance, as well as mutual respect, three things, then perhaps the younger generation would not have this misunderstanding that seems to persist on gender roles. So, I'll give you an example. Now, when a woman is seen as inferior to the man, the younger generation is saying, well, I'm not inferior to any man because we've gone to school. Perhaps she was even the brightest one in the class.
Yes.
So she's now asking herself, why are you telling me that I'm inferior to the man? So she can't see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When I was a young girl, there were certain things that my grandmother and other older women, said about what is acceptable in a marriage. I mean, you will be so surprised to hear, they told me that it's acceptable, for the man to just whip the woman to shape, to control her.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and they accepted that as the social norm. So they didn't see anything that was wrong with it. But you cannot say that to the modern generation, that just slap her and whip her up to shape. And even I, as old as I am, I frowned on it when that was being told to me. Not to talk about, like my daughter's age mates and, telling me they can't see such things.
Exactly.
So now, if you permit me to just speak on why I say I believe in the beauty of balance, complementarity, and mutual respect as regards to gender roles.
Of course.
Now, I like to go back to inception, the way our creator ordained things. I wasn't there, but I read a lot, and I observe, from what is happening in my community. I experience, and I can come up with something that says, now the man, was formed. He is the closer one to the woman. The woman was made to be more delicate, okay, and with what I call the intuition, finer intuition. The man also has it, but it's a rougher intuition. So now, with the way the man was factored or formed, just like any machine, and you configure it for a function. So he was configured, if I may use that word, for leadership, for roles that are hard, that are strong, for protection. If there's anything, that's the man's role. Now, in each human being, there's a bit of a feminine and masculine part. Now, the man developed the masculine, side of him and pushed away all the, which was now put into the woman that was developed after the man was developed. If we go back to story of evolution and all that, okay. So now the woman was configured for nurturing, for caring, okay. Now she has all these features: intuition, collaboration, creativity, and these are very beautiful features.
Yes.
Okay, when we talk about 21st century skills, I mean, these things that I mentioned are the things that we're calling for in today's world. So you can imagine the woman bringing all that into leadership. Then there'll be forward looking. There's a broader perspective. Okay? Now, the man on his own has all the aggressive, not in a wrong way, he's built for that which is strong and hard. He can rough it out, he can, he has the stamina. Now, picture where two of them understand their roles. And again, I want to also throw this out, that no gender is superior to the other, and no role is better than the other. So now this is where, yes, I have to bring, to say that. So now you can imagine where the man understands his role, the woman understands her role, and then they come together. They come together to balance each other. Because there are things that the man is unable to do, is unable to perceive as a woman would. So when he lacks in those areas, because that's not the way he was configured. So if he understands his role and understands the woman's role, so where he is lacking, the woman supplements or complements. Now, where she is lacking, the man complements. So there is a balance. They balance each other. There's unity, there's mutual respect, and there's harmony. That's really how it's meant to be. But when you step out of the roles and then you, I don't want to do this anymore. You can imagine a car, that has been designed to drive on a smooth road, and then you now decide, no, I'm not going to drive it on any smooth road. I'm just going to go through gullies, I'm going to go through water, I'm going to go by air with this car that was not configured for that. Then there'll be trouble, which is what we're facing today. The trouble we're facing today. So now you have men and women stepping out of their roles.
So are you saying that a man cannot nurture, cannot care, and do all of that? And are you saying that a woman cannot step into that leadership role and take on some of those features that
Okay. Now, a man cannot nurture. He can do the bit he can, but he wasn't wired for that. That's why you see in a home front, the woman is the one who is teaching values to her children. She's the one who is making sure that the home front is sound in health, sound in thinking, and then there's stability and there's peace. That is the woman's role, because she has this intuition which guides. It's like a moral compass, the inner voice that guides her in the choices that she's making, and whether we acknowledge it or not, when a home, I'll paint two pictures of a home front now. Now let us paint picture home number one. Now there's a man and then the wife and children. So the man understands, okay, yes, I am head of the home. He's not lording it over the wife. He's not saying I'm more superior, but I'm the head of the home as the way it's been ordained. But she is the neck that carries the head. So if she doesn't move the neck, the head doesn't move. That's really the way it's meant to be. Because of that intuition, that guidance that she offers, that ability to see beyond what is just merely physical or whatever. I don't know how else to paint it. But because she is being guided from her inside, so she has foresight.
Yes.
And she's able to direct, if I may use that word, direct, she inspires. She's able to say, okay, I this is what I perceive. This is how I'm seeing something, The man who appreciates what she's bringing will not say, oh, I'm shut up, don't tell me anything. He would think about it, and then once he sees, I never imagined this, and then he acts on it because he is the one that executes what she is directing. And then things work out. The children are well grounded, So now in that kind of home setting, children coming out of that type of home become useful to society. Now let's paint another picture of another home. Two leaders, two heads. One refuses to bow to the other one. I'm just as good as you. You cannot come and tell me to do this. I'm heading, a powerful unit in my office where men and women bow to me. So both of them now come back with their very powerful jobs. They have everything in their house, big house, gadgets, money, the whole lot. But one thing they do not have, sound children. Because those children, by the time they come back from their very powerful work, the children have gone to sleep, or, children are just left to more or less raise themselves.
Yes.
And then there's a problem, because if there's no support, if there's no guidance, just like a computer, if you don't, garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't put in any values, if you don't put it, because everybody is, I will not agree. There's this thing, I can't remember what it was. Check. I can't remember. There was a word that was being used last year about I won't grieve for you or something
Okay,
like that.
is it no grief for anybody?
No grief for anybody, but there was another thing.
Okay.
Pochili or something
Okay,
like that.
pochili, yes.
So everybody is doing
Yeah.
pochili,
Yeah.
and then the whole front is ruined. I like I keep mentioning, I work with young people, as a mentor. And I have heard, them come to me, can I confide in you, ma? and then they've said some things. As in, I also studied counseling. So they've said some things that, in counseling, you're not supposed to show surprise, so that they're able to speak on.
Yeah.
But when I now ask, have you shared this with your parents? They're not there. They're not there. They don't listen. They're too busy. And we've had cases where children have gone into drugs, gone into all sorts, because they're listening to their peers, they're using the drugs, they're using all those things to mask the pain or whatever it is that they're passing through. And when you check, much of it is coming from their home. So
Yes.
I have painted two different homes,
Yes.
and you look at it, and then that's why I keep calling for balance. I'm not saying that the woman should not work. By all means, work. But your primary assignment is your home. That's your constitution. That's where it starts. If you're able to raise well-mannered and well-grounded children, you will reap the benefits.
Just to understand you better,
Mm-hmm.
you're basically saying that it is primarily the woman's job to do the raising of the children
Okay.
in the home.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Basically, yes. The man also helps. Can you see where the balance now comes?
okay. Helps.
Yes, it helps in the home. I'm not saying he goes to go and wash plate. If he wants to wash plate, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If your wife, maybe you've seen there's some cases where husband and wife, it's just that they don't have helpers. So the man also, maybe she's cooking and he's helping to wash the dishes,
Yeah.
or get
Watch
the
the
children
children,
ready,
yes.
or help with homework and all that. That's the balance we're looking for.
You spoke about mutual respect
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to acknowledging the importance and the beauty of these gender roles.
Yes.
I would like to know, what do you think is the role or the influence of religion and culture when it comes to this particular thing? Because it is something, people always refer to it in our culture, women, the religion, women, or men, and it can lead to this idea of superiority, like you said, of feeling like one person is better than the other. So I would like to.
Okay, I'm going to say something. I hope they don't have my neck, but I'm going to say something. You mentioned culture, religion. Now, this culture that we talk about, set up by human beings, and I'm sorry to say, some of the things that we refer to as culture were set up to put control, over certain things, and especially the women folk.
Yeah.
Okay? So now, culture is good, but it evolves. It should evolve. There are certain areas of the culture that were set at times when people maybe didn't have quite as much knowledge as we have, and exposure as we have now. And you cannot continue to carry that into today's world when today the children don't even understand what you're talking about, and then imposing it on them. Some areas of our culture, yes, culture should evolve.
Yeah.
Really. That's how it's meant to be. Culture should evolve. But certain things don't seem to be evolving in our own culture because it helps to put a check, put control. And who are the people who actually set up the culture? I don't think it was the women.
Of course not. Yeah.
You know?
Well, back then it was more of a patriarchal society, so it was more of, like I said, the superiority factor.
You know?
Yes.
So and that was said because of lack of understanding. You know, because if we had a better understanding, especially in the religious setting now, you know, because you would hear when there's a problem, you know, and a woman raises an issue that she's passing through in her home, the first thing she's told, go and be submissive.
Yes, that word has been used, and even in religious circles, it has become a mantra.
Do you know, it will shock you that if I say this, because I do not belong to the traditional religious setting, you know? Submission is not of human beings. Submission is actually of the animals, not human beings. That's why even in slavery, it was difficult to get the people to really, truly submit. It was beaten out of them. Because a human being has free will.
Yeah.
And that's the way God ordained it. So because of that free will, it's difficult to now beat in submission into a normal human being.
Whether male
Or female.
Yes.
You know? So when we continue to misunderstand creation, you know, and the roles of man and woman as it's meant to be, then we have problems. So we use our intellect to figure out, okay, you know, this is how it should be here, this is how it should be there, you know. But if we listen to the voice of conscience, then you will now begin to see that, this thing I'm doing is not really right. Because you forget, if you can do that to another woman, another person's child that you call your wife, remember you have a sister, you have a daughter,
You have nieces.
you have nieces. I mean, I want to bring it closer to your daughter. You know, if a man treats your daughter the way you treat your wife, would you as a man take it? That should be a point of reflection.
Yes.
Except if you're saying you don't love your daughter. You know?
Yeah.
But if it's a man who loves his daughter and he knows that he mistreats or he totally disregards and disrespects his wife, you know, then he would ask himself, I wouldn't want to see that being done to my daughter. This whole thing of respect, I'm very keen on respect. I teach it.
Yeah.
I give it. I live it.
Yes. And before we go, how do you think these roles contribute to gender violence and discrimination in society?
Let me, before I answer that question, the roles themselves, the genuine roles of the man and the woman, are not where the problem. That's not where the problem is.
Yes.
It's the problem is not the role assigned to the man and to the woman. Whether we acknowledge it or not, that's how it is. You know, just like when you have a glass of water, you as far as you're concerned, it's clean, it's pure, because that's all you're seeing. But somebody who brings a gold begins to see some living organisms and all sorts in that same water that you call pure. So whether we like it or not, those rules are there to guide the way we relate with one another, you know, to bring about unity, to bring about togetherness, that's harmony, you know, and growth. Because you don't, one person, like I said, there's no man without woman, there's no woman without man. It has nothing to do with marriage, you know, because every man has a womanly influence. It could be a mother, grandmother, sister, friend, whatever, you know. So, back to your question, how misunderstanding these roles have led to gender violence and discrimination. You know, because we have not understood those roles and they're rarely spoken about and the benefits, and we have not, because if you don't understand something, you can't practice it.
Yeah.
So because we've not understood, we've not been able to practice it, because if we practice it aright, then the younger generation looking at us will be happy to also toe the same line. But because we've not practiced it the way it should be, then in instead, what we have done is the way we raise children, you know, the parents already make the boy to know you're the superior one. No, you don't go to the kitchen. You know, send your sister to go and bring whatever. If he comes back, where's my food? Where's my this? And she just goes along doing that. And the parents accept that because that's the way they were also raised, you know. So because of that misconception, and what we have now done is propagated competition instead of collaboration.
Yes.
So now we have where the other one feels I'm more superior. I'm speaking, you don't speak. You know, so any little thing triggers off and then there's gender violence. You know? But if we truly, I keep going back to this same point, if we truly understand gender roles the way it ought to be and ought to be practiced and ought to bring about balance and bring about collaboration,
Yes.
you know, then there will be mutual respect. And where there's mutual respect, there's no abuse.
Yeah, so we're running out of time, but I want to just note that because of all of this starts from the home,
Yes.
and it spills over into the workplace,
The
the schools, you know, just society in general. Because when this mentality of superiority comes in, even in the workplace, you find the man looking down on his female counterpart. If he has a female boss, he looks down at her like, why would you be telling me what to do? And it also goes, you know, the other way around as well. So just some final words. What are your final words to our viewers as to how to change their perception and their ideas surrounding gender roles and stereotypes?
Okay, with the little that we have shared, you know, I'm hoping that the people listening to us would rethink in the way children are being raised. You know, like I would, final word would be, no gender is superior to the other, and no role is more important. You know, so even a stay-home wife, I'm giving an example now, a stay-home wife that you think, okay, what is she bringing? You know, she's just cooking and cleaning and raising the children and keeping it. The day she stops doing that, that man will not function. He will not function. You know, she's preparing that home, making it livable, making it harmonious, making it a sanctuary. That's the only way the man is able to think clearly and take good decisions when he goes to work. So he has to respect her and appreciate what she's bringing on board. I'm just giving an example of a stay-home wife, you know, and then they are the ones that, you know, people would say, we don't even regard. Why can't you go and get a job? You don't know that what she's bringing on is a full, making sure that he is healthy, she's making sure the meals are right, the everywhere is clean. She's bringing it just like on our streets. The day the cleaners, the sweepers decide, okay, we're not doing it, then we would now know the importance of those sweepers. Okay. You know, so we need to be able to appreciate one another. You know, and I keep saying, there's no man without woman, and there's no woman without man. You know, so let us appreciate what each one is bringing and respect. Because when we have that mutual respect, then we have peace, then we have harmony, and then we're happy. And we can progress. That doesn't mean the woman cannot work, but go and work. But remember, your primary assignment is your home. Don't relegate it to the background, expecting house help to do something for you. The house help will not raise your children.
And it also goes...
It goes the other way,
too. Yes. Wow. This conversation is, I don't want it to end, but sadly we have to call it a day for this discussion. Thank you so much for your insights. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers have a lot to take home from this. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll be going on a short break right now, and Gender Perspective continues. Stay with us. Wow, that was a very interesting conversation we had right there with Lady Jane Ndukwe. And like I said, I hope we all have something to take home from her opinions about this discussion. Well, gender roles and stereotypes have shaped societies for generations, influencing how men and women are expected to behave, work, and interact. But in today's world, are these traditional expectations still relevant, or are they changing? We hit the streets to hear what people think about gender roles, the stereotypes that come with them, and how they impact our daily lives. Do people still believe that men should be providers and women should be caregivers? Well, let's hear what they have to say.
To my own knowledge, gender role and stereotypes are those expectations that the society and the people, family expect from men and women, to carry out in any situation. It can be from the woman or from the man. In the case of the woman, a woman is expected to be the one to nurture a home. A woman is expected to take care of her family. A woman is expected to take care of her husband without complaints. And you are expected to look good from beginning to the end. You are expected to look classy. You are expected to, represent. You understand? So a woman also is expected to, okay, in the olden days, when women were not even allowed to go to school. You remember when women were not even allowed to go to school? Okay, there is a popular saying that says, "Education of women ends in kitchen." I don't know how to put it together. In the traditional version, women don't have a say in a cabinet meeting where chiefs are gathered. Women don't have a say to change any rule in a family. Women don't even have the right to give her daughter out in marriage. A woman cannot go to the farm in the traditional aspect. You cannot go to the farm and start cultivating and harvesting. It is a taboo in some parts of Nigeria. You cannot carry what is it called, a hoe or a cutlass to start digging. You want to make ridges, make your crops grow and every other thing. And then a woman is supposed to be so submissive to the husband that when your husband says sit down, shut up, you will sit down and shut up. The stereotypical aspect of men, a man is supposed to be the sole provider in every home, every organization. You're supposed to be the head, the shoulder that women lie on. We are supposed to come to you for everything. And then a man is not supposed to be a nurse. You're not supposed to be a nurse. When people see a man that is a hairstylist, I've seen so many men that are hairstylists, most of them start behaving like women. It's stereotypical, even if they are not gay. Do you understand? And some of them, they are nail technicians, they are into different things.
Traditional roles and gender stereotypes are the roles that male and female members of any community are being established to perform concerning the society that they belong to. Yes, those roles are important for the sustenance of the society. The male have their particular roles that they play, mostly in rural societies, is very amplified. And the females also have their roles that they also abide by to make sure that the smooth running of the society and the family in particular is sustained. Okay, how it affects men and women is mostly amplified in urban areas. In the urban areas, mostly in the cities, gender roles are being merged in workplaces, in residential houses that people live in. Most of the men that are there don't even stay with their families. They are workers. They stay alone most of the time. Then they go and visit their relatives back at home or their families. So some of the men do not play those kind of roles that traditional men in the rural areas play. Something like some of the men go to market to go buy things to cook for themselves. Some of the men wash their clothes. And some of the men, even maybe if they have one or two kids that are staying with them in the city, they do take care of the kids without reaching out to the female gender to assist. And the women too, you find out that some of them are even breadwinners in the cities. Some of them also take on jobs that are traditionally meant for men. So jobs such as working in industries, working in heavy duty occupations. And some of the women also decide not to even get married and have children. And so gender roles are being, most of the gender roles are being diluted in urban areas. So that's where I think that it affects the genders is mostly in the urban areas that gender roles are being rubbed off and merged per se.
I think even like now, before men are supposed to be like the sole breadwinner of the family, but now it's not even that way because most times things are very difficult. If they allow only men to provide for the family, it's not going to work. So now women bring, men bring, and they join it together. Even like this Gen Z and 21st century generation, men now help out in the kitchen, help out in raising children, help out in like so many other things that they feel like it was women's duty before, like, and other things. For me, I feel like it is a good thing. I think it's helping the society positively because now, as I said, the cooking part now, men are now chefs and then they are using it to get money to provide for themselves, provide for their families. If it was left for women, now they will say, oh, it's women's duty. No, but because men are now doing it, they are already providing. And also, the parts where women don't have to stay at home to now be taking care of children or stay at home and be doing house duty. It is also helping families. Maybe if they're supposed to be eating 1 square meal in a day, but because the wife is providing and the husband is also providing, it will make the family increase to maybe eating 2 or 3 times in a day.
Gender roles and stereotypes supposed to be an old kind of topic. We shouldn't be discussing it in these present times because actually it's not relevant in the times and seasons we are now. Men are supposed to be doing this or women are supposed to be doing this. It's just not quite relevant to me. I don't know about somebody else's opinion. Because in my own family, I don't look towards those directions. Maybe a woman should do this. If you are married to a lady, and maybe in the world we are today, she's doing a lot to care for the family. You being a man supposed to help her, unless you have enough money for burial. You're supposed to be helping her to do a lot of house chores and things like that. If you are not doing your own work, then even if you are doing your own work, when you come back house and the woman is not around, it doesn't take much from a man like me to warm the soup before the woman comes back. So those are the ways I see the issue of the topic of gender roles and stereotypes. Because if my own opinion, when I echo my opinion, maybe towards young people nowadays, they will say, this is an old man or this is an old school something.
Wow. Our conversations today have shown that while traditional gender roles and stereotypes still exist, perspectives are shifting. Many people recognize the importance of breaking free from outdated expectations to create a more inclusive and equal society. Whether at home, in the workplace, or in relationships, challenging these stereotypes allows individuals to pursue their passions and potential without limitations. Well, I mean, today has been quite packed with a lot of informative things to take home, and that's the much we can take today for our episode on gender perspectives. Now, don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms showing right now on your screen. And as always, I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. See you next week.